let's get started then. Managing customer relationships. So, how are your customers feeling right now? There's a few emojis up there. I think is the next line. Yes, yeah, okay. So, how are your customers feeling right now? On the last 4 or 5 sessions I've done for you guys, we've talked about how you guys might be feeling. You know, we've done sessions like it's okay not to be okay, and how do you generate peak performance in challenging times, and things like that. So all of the things that you're feeling, your customers are probably also feeling those things as well. You know, they might be frustrated. Some of them might still be in shock about the lockdown. So Christian said, you could do as long as it's not to drink bleach or inject sunlight. Yeah, absolutely. How that man is still in power, I have no idea. Some people might be unhappy. Some people might feel like they've had a whack over the head. Yeah, some people might feel like they're a bit stunted. Somebody's just given them a whack or winded them, maybe. Some of them might have got through it and are doing the best with it that they can. So your customers are going to be feeling a ream of things. Why are they going to be feeling those ream of things? You've all seen this by now if you've been on any of these sessions. The reason they're feeling those things is because some of them will still be coming down this transition. Okay? I know it's been 4 weeks since lockdown, but believe me, some people are still dropping down this transition. They really, really are. So, we know why people are feeling off, not great, worried, annoyed, frustrated, all of these things. And I know some of you might be feeling some of those things as well, which is absolutely fine, but your customers are also in that boat. So we need to remind ourselves of that sometimes. Our customers are also in that boat. So how can we help them through this time? Because quite ironically, what you will find is if you help somebody, if you're coming down here personally, and then you help somebody else down here, it makes you feel better straight away. When you help somebody else, it builds your self-esteem, builds your confidence, and it makes you feel that little bit better. So actually, even though we might be some of these things at the moment, hopefully some people have turned this curve and are on the way up here. Some of our customers might still be down here struggling with it, and we can help them with it. So how do we help them? That's the key question, isn't it? Again, you've seen this. How do we help them? Well, we want to try and help them get different results. Those results might not be financial at the moment. Those results might be feeling better, might be knowing that you're there to support them with your customers, might be the fact that you've just rang them to see how they are, for argument's sake. You know, I'm not harping on about this again because Pete's on the call, but I shared this on one of the sessions. When this all kicked off, a few days later after it all kicked off, you know, Pete was one of only a few clients that rang me and kind of went, how's it going, John? How are things? Is everything okay? And, you know, that makes a difference to people. You don't always have to only phone customers to get sales or revenue off them. You might phone them for an update. You might ask them how they are. You might just say, how's it going with you? You know, what's happening in the business? That's also a bit of a double whammy for you as well, which we'll talk about later. Because if you are genuinely asking how people are, they will give you information back about their business state that you're able to then use to your advantage in the right way, obviously in the right context. You're able to use to your advantage going forward, and more to the point, how you can help them. Yeah, how you can help them. So for instance, you know, when all this kicked off, I was running leadership programs and things like that, as most of you know. And then I kind of went, okay, well, I can't come and see you. So how can I still be with you? How can I help and support people, my clients, through this kind of thing? And we film studio and everything else. But you know, I'm speaking to my customers. You know, I was on the phone to Lindsay for a couple of hours last week, and so on and so on and so on. So it's about what can you do for your customers now that, and actually in the future, other than just asking for a sale or an invoice or anything else that's going on. Okay. What we want to do is help them with their results, but like I said to you before, it doesn't necessarily mean financial results. It could mean just understanding, listening, making them feel a little bit better, all that type of stuff. But to do that, we've got to help them with their thinking. And you know, the reason I put this up again, and I know you've seen this to death, some of you, We've got to start with this thinking piece. That's what we've got to do. Don't just change actions because results only shift short term. We've got to understand how people are thinking and feeling at the moment. These two things here, okay? Thinkings and emotions on the back of it. Thinking is the big one. If we can help understand how our customers are thinking, and we can help maybe change their self-talk, or walk through their mind with our very clean feet. In other words, send a little bit of our positivity, send a little bit of our energy across to people. It will make a big difference to people, and it will change the results. It will not only change the results with your relationship with your customers short term, it will change them long term as well on the back of it. So even if you're doing this now because of lockdown, people will remember that for a long time coming, and it will help your relationship with your customer move forward. Okay, so people buy people. There is a caveat to that. Your product's got to be quite good as well. So people do buy people. People will buy from people that they know. Certainly if it's a bigger sale, you're not kind of a 5 or a 10 quid purchase. Maybe it's a couple of grand, or maybe it's a big millions. People will buy people. Yes, your product has to be good. Yes, your product has to do what it says on the tin. Absolutely, I get that. Otherwise, people would lose faith in your product, and then they lose faith in the people behind the product, and you won't sell it. However, if you've got a good product, then people buy people. So your people are more likely, your customers are more likely to buy from you. And when I say buy, it could be a product or it could be an opinion. It doesn't really matter when they buy from you. It could be a bit of advice that they buy from you, if that makes sense. They might not purchase it with cash, but people buy people. So it's important that you know what type of people you're trying to build a good relationship with there. So again, lots of you will have seen this. Some of you might not, because I might not have profiled all of you. But again, I've shown this on other sessions that I've done. If you are trying to build a relationship with a high red profile, and you don't need to profile all of your customers to have a guess at what type of profile they are. If you know this, okay, and if anybody doesn't have this, okay, I can email it out to Lindsay, and Lindsay can email it out to everybody, because all you need really are these 4 boxes. If you haven't done your profile before, these 4 boxes break down the type of people that we deal with, and you can pick up quite quickly on what people are saying and how they're saying it to the type of person that you're dealing with. But if you want to maintain and increase a relationship with a high red profile, then you need to be direct, you need to be to the point, you need to be short, sharp, and then gone. You need to use very little of their time, because that's the type of person you're dealing with. You know, they won't want every single last piece of detail, and they don't want a story of how you've got from here to there. They want the information, they want it now, they want it quickly, and they want to have trust in it. Happy days, great, tick a box. If you're trying to create a relationship or maintain one with a high yellow profile, then you're going to need to be very sociable, because high yellows, they do like small talk. They will want you to know about the holiday they've just been on. They will be very impressed if you remember it's their birthday or where they've just been on holiday, and so on and so on and so on. So we'll talk about capturing that kind of information later as well. But you're going to need to do the small talk bit with these people, because that's what they'll enjoy. If you're dealing with a high green person from a customer point of view, and you're trying to maintain or increase that relationship, then you need to be very calm when you speak to them. You need to be quite methodical when you speak to them. You need to listen very well as well, because they will like people that listen and be empathetic. Try and understand their point of view. Now, we should try and do that with every customer, but especially high green profiles with their customers, okay? And then if you're dealing with a high blue customer, They're going to want data, evidence, analysing the evidence, and a forecast of what the product or service is and what it's going to do for them, and so on and so on and so on. Now, you can notice straight away, if you're on the phone, you've got to act differently to these 4 types of people. Very, very simple. If you act like a high blue, dealing with a high yellow, you'll turn them off completely, 100%. Just had a little comment. If you can send the profile, yeah, of course I will. I'll send this out to Lindsay and she can email it out to you all, no problem at all with that. If you're dealing with a high red and you go in with a high green mentality, you'll get nowhere. The high red will shoot you down and the conversation won't last very long. Okay? So, we need to think about this when we're maintaining and increasing our customer relationships, because if you go in with the wrong approach, you're not going to get the best out of that call, FaceTime, face-to-face when we get back out a lot of time, whatever it may be, on the back of it, okay? So you need to be able to read your customers, which comes back to emotional intelligence, remember guys, increasing your emotional intelligence. It doesn't take a lot to learn this stuff. Most of you have had your profiles delivered. If you have had your profile delivered by me, this page is one of the pages of that document that you received. If you haven't, we'll send it out. Sandra's just put, so you need to change your profile to fit, ? Yeah, to a certain degree, Sandra, yes you do. You have to adapt your profile. Now, you're not going to change who you are. And I wouldn't suggest that you do change who you are, because that might come across as false, if that makes sense. But you do need to adapt your profile to a certain degree. So if I'm dealing with somebody that's very, very high green, as you people will know on this call, I'm not a high green. What that means, if I'm dealing with them one-to-one and I know they're high green, then I need to adapt my approach on that call, because if I go in with my typical high red approach, after about a minute, I would have turned them off from what I was saying. So instead of me going in and being loud and energetic and focused and action orientated, I might be a little bit calmer, I might lower my voice, I might ask a question and then just listen and not butt in. So I want to adapt my profile to a certain degree to get the best out of the customer situation. Which again, it's a great question, Sandra, thank you for that. Which again is about emotional intelligence. And remember, the most successful people on the planet, business owners and successful people, work on and increase their emotional intelligence. Bearing in mind, the definition of emotional intelligence is the understanding of how my thinking affects my behaviour, and then how my behaviour affects somebody else's behaviour. And that's what it's all about. And you know, you can go online very quickly. If you don't use TED Talks already, type in TED.com in Google, and then in the search bar for TED, put emotional intelligence in there. You will find loads of 15-minute clips about emotional intelligence. Just educate yourself a little bit about it, because it will make a massive difference when you go to talk to your customers. Okay? So, we haven't got to what you're going to say to your customers yet. What we've just done is gone, what do we need to get ready to talk to our customers? Well, we need to understand how they're feeling currently, and we can understand that because a lot of us are feeling a similar way. We need to understand what type of customer we're talking to. Are they a high red? Are they a high blue? Now, to your customers that you know quite well, you'll be able to pinpoint which is their dominant profile. Introverts are a little bit more difficult to read than extroverts, but by that in itself, if you've got quite a quiet person as a customer, that will give you an indication they are an introvert. So you can drop your extroversion and you can move more towards your introversion to help that customer. If you've got a brand new customer or a customer that's quite new to you, it might take you 1 or 2 conversations with them to start to suss out what type of person they are. Just as a few little tips, High reds will be very straight to the point with you. High yellows will like small talk and like maybe a bit of humour on the call. High greens will be very calm, very collected in their approach, and high blues will be asking you for evidence. So straight away, just one little tip per quadrant, you'll start to give you an indication of what type of person you're dealing with, which then means you can adapt your profile to get the best out of them during that interaction, whether that's a call or a video call or a face-to-face in person after lockdown. Stuart said very true on the adapting thing. Thanks for that, Stuart. With a little smiley face as well. I do like that. Good stuff. Okay, so there's your foundation. Okay, the models that I've shown you up there, most of you have seen those before, but you might not have thought about them in a customer way. So let's move on now. Remember, people need three things. Okay, again, you've seen this before. People need to be involved, they need information, and some people need individual attention, which is why it's important at the moment that you are regularly speaking to your customers. And you might be sitting there going, but I've got nothing to say to them, John. We're going to get to that in a moment. It is vitally important. On my CRM system, and I'm sure that you have a client relationship management system that you work to, my customers, minimum, every 6 to 8 weeks, there is some type of dialogue between me and my customers, okay? For my close customers, that's every couple of weeks, if not every week, which I'm sure Pete and Lindsay can contest to with this. I speak to my regular customers regularly, and my not so regular customers, minimum every 6 to 8 weeks. There is some rationale and theory and data behind the 6 to 8 weeks, by the way, for all the high blues on the call today. I'm not going to go into it because we don't have time, but 6 to 8 weeks minimum does our customers need to hear from us. Why? Because it keeps us on the agenda. Why? Because it keeps us in their mind. So when they've got a problem or an issue and they need some help with it, we might be able to help them. You also need to do the same with your customers. And I know your customers maybe don't buy training services. Actually, some of them do, don't they? For the training team, of course they do. You've got services and products going on, haven't you? You've got both things going on. You might sell somebody a product and then they keep that product. Let's say it's a CHP for argument's sake. So you sell them a CHP, you would then sell them a maintenance package on the back of the CHP. If the only time you ever spoke to your customers was when something goes wrong, they're not going to get the right feeling, because all they're going to do is probably get bad news off you on a regular basis. Yeah? So that's why we need touch points and we need to talk to our customers and so on and so on and so on. So, involve your customers wherever you can. Give them as much information as you're able, because so they feel involved and they've got information. Some of your customers will need individual attention. Some of them you might deem worthy of individual attention, depending on the revenue they bring in to your organisation, for argument's sake. Okay? So, 5 top tips maintaining great customer relations. Okay? You can use these top tips in and out of lockdown, but I'm going to put a lockdown emphasis on it for you because that's the situation at the moment, and the feedback was we've got a lot of people that are struggling to find reasons to ring their customers and what to say and things like that at the moment, okay? So, let's go. Tip number 1. Build to a level of acceptance, ideally trust, okay? Genuinely interested. So, some of you, if you've been on leadership courses with me, will know this model, okay? This is a relationship model. It starts with acknowledge and moves all the way through to bond level relationship, okay? So, when you talk to a customer for the very first time, the first thing you have to do is acknowledge each other. That's the bottom of this curve. Again, this is a document I can send out. It's actually, the original research on this is from a book called Connective Selling by a guy called John Timperley, and it's actually written for a customer relationship. This is what it's written for. The meaning of this. You can use it for other things as well, but the original text is about a customer relationship. So the first thing you've got to do is acknowledge each other. So they've got to know what you exist, and you've got to know they exist. That's the first point of call, especially if you're looking for new customers, for argument's sake. Okay? Then you have to move them to a level of understanding. So if I use my relationship with Pete and Centrica as an example, I met Pete through somebody that worked for Pete. We were at a networking event, and then they acknowledged us and we acknowledged them. So acknowledgement was done. Then I needed to help them understand what we did, and we needed an understanding of what you guys did. So we invited Pete along to what we called the Discovery Day, and Pete came along for the day and we did some of our material. We also asked some questions to Pete about the business and what he did and how it worked, and we tried to move to a level of understanding, because once you understand what each of you do, you can then, over a little bit of time, move to the point of acceptance. Now, when you get to the point of acceptance, what that means is I accept you for what you do and who you are, and you accept me for what I do and who I am. Now, once you get to the point of acceptance, you can sell something. Only at that point can you sell. If you try and sell to a customer that is underneath the point of acceptance, you're probably not going to get the answer you want, because they may still be in the understanding phase. They may only have just acknowledged that you provide those services. You have to work hard in the understanding piece in order to get to acceptance. What does understanding mean for a customer? It might mean you meet them. It might mean you give them a bit of a freebie. It might mean so they can taste what you do. It might mean that you draw up plans for them or put a proposal together. It might mean that you show them some evidence or some testimonials of where it's worked with other people. All of these things will help you get to the point of acceptance. Now, I must have got to the point of acceptance with Pete. He can tell me otherwise. And the reason I know I got to the point of the acceptance with Pete is because he said, okay, come in and do some work with this team over here. So at that point, we were able to make a deal, and I start. Pete's just put still a work in progress. Thanks for that, Pete. Yeah, you like this? I'm hoping we're a little bit higher as well, Pete, at the moment, but you could probably tell me different. So once you get to that point, you're on a winner. But you've got to do some work. You've got to do some work to get to that point. But you've got to be constantly trying to move your customers through this. Now, you might have quite a lot of customers that are at accept already. You might have already sold to them, and you're maintaining that relationship. You're maintaining the maintenance package and all that type of stuff. That's great, but you don't stop there. Acceptance really is the minimum standard you're looking for. What you want to do is try and move them up this scale. Now, the next level is the level of respect. Now, respect comes with time and evidence. So if you get to the level of expect, what that means is to your customer is not only do they accept you for what you do, but what you've said is what's happened. So in other words, what you do, what you say actually gets done on time for the customer on a regular basis, and they can start to rely on you and actually respect not only your product, but the knowledge that you have as well around the industry, and so on and so on and so on. And even better than that, once you move through respect, you get to a level of trust. Now, trust is the level where people will not only buy from you, they will keep coming back to you to buy more. That's the point that we really want to get our customers to. They don't only trust in your product, but they trust in your knowledge, they trust in your credibility and the type of person you are, they trust in your confidence, and so on and so on and so on. And if we can get to a level of trust with our clients, then actually you're kind of at the pinnacle of a business relationship. Now, some of you might be going, well, there's one more, John, there's one more. And yeah, the top level is what we call a bond level relationship, okay? And you may get some of these with customers, you may not, okay? A bond level relationship is probably somebody that's one of your customers that you've become almost friends with, and you'll be friends with them in 20 years, even if you're not doing what you're doing. Now, in a work relationship, you might get to bond it with a colleague. In a business-to-business relationship, you may not get there, but that's okay. Sometimes we just pick the phone up without thinking. So preparation, when you're talking to your customer, is very, very important, okay? So, what we've got here is preparation, and I know you can't see that. I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment, okay? But this is a little relationship and sales process that we go through, okay? And I'm just going to talk you through it, so bear with me. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so you should be all able now to see that. And what we've got here is a full, I suppose, process map, if you want to look at it that way, of when you're about to make a sales call and what needs to happen on that sales call. Now, this is specifically if you want to try and make a sale, but there might be lots of other reasons why you're talking to your customers, which we'll come on to in a moment. So the first thing to look at there is mental preparation. So before you pick the phone up, there's a few things that you can do, and this is very, very detailed, I understand that, and again, this is a document that I can send out, but this is a document that I use in this business, and it's a document that I put together and teach when we're teaching relationship management or generating sales, things like that. Mental preparation is the first thing we do. So mental preparation is broken down into 4 areas: self-talk, self-talk questions, past memory, and imagine future. So the self-talk statements: will I speak with confidence? People will like me. I'm confident in my own ability, and things like that. A lot of people get nervous when they're about to make a sales call or a call to a customer. So you all should know by now, with the amount of self-talk work that we've done, actually, if you give yourself a few self-talk statements, a few seconds before you make a call, you are able to give yourself better instructions so you come across better in that call. So the first bit of mental preparation is what you're going to say to yourself. That's the first bit. The second bit is self-talk questions. So, how can I possibly gain the other person's buy-in? How can I get them on board? So you might bring in your red, yellow, green, blue. I'm going to adapt my behaviour. I'm going to talk about data, or I'm going to be sociable, or depending on whoever your customer is. What obstacles could there be on this call? So that's about thinking about pre-obstacles. How could you overcome those obstacles? Okay, so for instance, objective handling, price, how quickly you can deliver, whatever, all of these things that come up, okay? What is their goal? Because you've got a goal about getting your customers to a certain level of relationship, or you want to sell them something. So there's normally those 2 reasons. You want to try and maintain your relationship, or increase it, or actually sell them something. So what obstacles might there be? What obstacles are they facing? What is their goal, do you think, on the call? And maybe what is their pain? Are they in any pain at the moment? And can you help them solve that pain issue that they've got? Then you've got past memory. So how have I dealt with this situation before? Okay? How have I dealt with other customers? What customers did I ring and have a really good call with? And what made that call go so well? What were the elements of that call? So it's about diagnosing previous calls or interactions and finding out what went really well, so you can emulate that. And then your imagine future. What is the perfect outcome of the call? Now, I'm just going to stop on this one for a moment, because a lot of people pick up the phone to their customers without having a goal for the call in their mind. And we've talked a lot about goals, and based on feedback as well, in a couple of weeks we've got a longer version of the smarter goal section that I did last week, because people found that quite interesting. So if you want to go back to that in a couple of weeks, that's fine. But make sure you've got a goal for the call. Before you pick that phone up, think about what you want when you put the phone down. So what is it that you want? What's the reason for the call? Is it just to make your customer feel a bit better at the moment? Is it to move them up that relationship? Is it to bolster the relationship? Is it to sell something? Is it to give them a bit of knowledge? Is it to make them feel better? Whatever your goal is for the call, make sure you've got it even written down. Make sure you've got it, and then you can make sure you can tick that box at the end of the call. And if you can't tick that box, you can diagnose the call and find out why it didn't go so well on the back of that. Okay? So, mental preparation. The next one is physical preparation. So, physical preparation, what research do you need to do before the call? What have you got on the CRM system? CRM systems, I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in a moment, but CRM systems are only as good as the data we put into it. It's as simple as that. And there will be lots of people, because I come across it, and I'm constantly on at my team about it as well, you have to record as much as you possibly can in your CRM system. Even down to the fact what level of relationship you are with that person. And also, maybe, if that person's highly sociable, then you need to make notes of when they tell you they've been on holiday, or they're going on holiday, where are they going? How many children have they got? When's their birthday? And all this type of stuff. Now I know you've got GDRP, I get all of that, but most people are comfortable with you recording information if you follow the due diligence that you've got in place. So if you can remember things like that, the next time you speak to them, it makes them feel good. So make sure your CRM system's up to date. Make sure every single piece of information is on it that you can possibly put into it. This is what we talked about. This is what we did. This is what's expected. These are the tasks that we've got to carry out on the back of it. If you need to do a bit more research on them, find them on the internet. Look on LinkedIn. Yeah? Maybe look at what's going on in the industry. Look at the sector that your customers are in. You know, I know one of your big customers, Henry Lloyd, CHP customers. You know, what's going on in their sector at the moment? Well, in their sector at the moment, it's closed, isn't it? Yeah? So actually, you know, and I know Pete's already done some of this, you know, how can you help them? What can you do to help them keep ticking over until customers are allowed back in? And so on and so on and so on. People are really receptive to that sort of stuff, okay? What resources have you got to hand? Company information, case studies, testimonials, your website. What resources do you need ready in front of you when you're on that call? And then finally, involving other people. What other team members do sales calls really well? What other team members build relationships with customers really well? What can you learn from them? Go and sit down and listen to them making a phone call. Find out what they do, yeah? And maybe you could get some referrals from your customers. Do you know, just as an aside, that's quite important. Very, very few people, companies, ask enough of their customers. Don't ask their customers enough for referrals. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're phoning your customers every week saying, who can you refer me to? Very quickly, they're going to get very bored of it. I understand that. However, every 2 months, every 3 months, every 6 months if you have to. I think I've got a comment, just bear with me a second. Hang on. I'm sharing the screen. If you don't have access to a CRM, you can simply keep your own notes on each client. Absolutely. So Pete's just put that on. Thanks for that, Pete. Let me get back to my screen again. So whatever your system is, whether it's a CRM, whether it's a file, whether it's a notebook, I keep a lot of my notes on my iPad with an Apple Pencil. The guys that know me will have seen me making notes on it. I'm able to use that and then email it to my CRM system or file it in that anyway. But whatever your notes, whatever your system, just keep a system and keep notes because it's really important, okay? So, mental preparation for the call, physical preparation for the call, and then there are 6 steps to selling at this point, okay? Now, I know this is not about selling, it's about maintaining customer relationships. But I thought I'd just give you a minute on this. We can have a whole separate course on this process, by the way, so don't worry about that. But when you go to sell, generally, if you want to sell effectively, there are 6 steps. And remember, when I say sell, it doesn't just mean a product. or a service. It could mean an opinion, it could mean a bit of knowledge. It could mean you want to get your customers thinking along the same lines of as you. Okay, so it doesn't have to be monetary based when you sell something, albeit this works very effectively when you do want to sell something that's monetary based. So the first thing we do is we open with an opening statement, and again we can do a whole separate session on this because there's a lot of information, but we open with a statement, then we gather information, we ask questions, we find out what are the customer's needs, what are the customer's wants, what are the customer's pain points. Yeah? Then we can start proposing how we can help the customer, how we can give them what we want, how we can give them what they need, how we can solve their problem and make their pain go away from this, and what benefits we can give them. Then you'll probably come across some objections after that, so we can then adjust, okay? We can then adjust what we're saying based on their objections, okay? Then we want to close once we've adjusted, so we want to get agreement within that conversation of the way forward. That now in brackets that says get the keys. The reason for that is at that point you want to get the keys to get you back in. That's what it's about. So there's a little bit of a trigger there. It's like somebody you leave their meeting, but before you leave the meeting you've got the keys to get back in to their building. In other words, you've got confirmation of agreement, then you can follow up with the agreement. And also, if you do it that way, there's no surprises when you send the agreement or the product or the service. All of that has been agreed before you leave the meeting or the call. The follow-up is a reaffirmation of what's been said in writing, and so on and so on and so on. So, don't want to spend any more time on that, but as it's part of the relationship scale, I've left it in. If you would like a separate session on that process for salespeople out there, send me some information in the chat box before we finish today, and I'll make sure that we put it into one of the sessions going forward. Okay? So, back to me. At this point, you should all have me back now. Go back onto the chat box. Okay. So, follow the process. That's step number 2. Be prepared. Mental preparation, physical preparation. Follow your 6 steps if you're going to try and sell something. Okay? Mental prep, physical prep, 6 steps, as I've said now, okay? Number 3, reasons to call. Now this one was quite big on the agenda with the feedback that we had, okay? What reasons do we have for people to call us? For us to call people, okay? Because we can't just call them and ask them to buy stuff off us all the time. Because that's just, people are going to get very wary of that very quickly. Unless you're dealing with a high red profile. If you're dealing with high red and you ring them up and go, we've got this, this and this, do you want this, this and this? They might just go, yes, I'll have that, that and that. Great, no problem, fine. But very rarely do you get only a high red. There will be a mix of the other profiles as well. So we need some reasons to call people, okay? You need to build your relationship with them. That's the main reason for calling people. People often think selling is the main reason for calling people or speaking to people or going to visit people. No, it's not. Your main reason is to build a relationship, because if you can get them to accept, you can then sell them something. If you can get them to trust, you can keep selling them something. So your number 1 target is to try and build relationships with your clients. Plan for the future. If you're in regular contact with your clients, don't talk about what you're doing now. Talk about what you can possibly do going forward with them. That way, you get them into a mindset that you are going to partner with these people over a long period of time, not just a quick sale and then we're out the door, because nobody really likes that anyway, do they? So, again, reasons to call people. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you, because you won't be able to see that. This is a list of reasons to call our customers. Now this is my list for my customers, but there's no reason, and all of my team, my sales team, they have this list printed out right next to their computer. So when a call comes around 6 weeks later, They look on the CRM system to find out what we talked about last. They do a little bit of physical prep around what's happening in the industry at the moment, and maybe what's happened if there's been any company announcements and all this type of stuff. And we check the CRM to see if they've had a birthday or they've just come back off holiday or whatever it may be. And then they need a reason to ring them, because they may not be ready to sell. They may have told us 4 weeks ago they're not ready to buy anything until September, for argument's sake, but it doesn't mean we're not going to ring them. So we need a reason to ring them, genuinely. So this is my list. There's no reason why you can't take this list and turn it in to whatever reasons you have in order to contact your people. So let me just share my screen again. Okay, make this bigger for you. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a lot of things on there. Some of them are pretty obvious. Some of them might make you think a little bit. So, first one, I'm not going to read them all because we don't have time, but first one, ask questions. How are things? What's the news? You could simply ring your customer and ask a couple of questions. That's it. Phone them up. And they go, "Are you right?" Go, yeah. I didn't want anything in particular. I just thought I'd touch base with you, see how things are going, really. How are you dealing with lockdown? What's happening in the business? You could have no other agenda to sell them anything other than try and build your relationship at that point, okay? You can ring them to inform them about what you're doing, who you are, how you're dealing with lockdown, some of the products that you've got, for argument's sake. You can educate them about some of the products or programs that you've got. You could understand their issues and challenges, and so on, and so on, and so on. You could send them, in my case, a podcast, a webcast, or a clip. You might send them a flyer or a leaflet or a booklet. You might send them a testimonial. You might just give them a call and go, "Look, I just want to let you know, we've just finished a job with a great customer. They've given you some great feedback. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to fire it over to you just so you can kind of see some of the things that we're doing." Yeah, you can arrange a Teams meeting. Again, you've got birthday card on there. Yeah, or something personal to an event that they've just been to. You could write a white paper. That's quite a good one, especially for a company your size. You might, if you're questioning what's a white paper, it's kind of a knowledge-based document about the industry that you're in that you share with your clients to give them some information. So look, there's a million reasons. I think there's 26 odd on there for ringing people. Okay, find your list. Make sure people have got it in front of them, and then they can go down it. And do you know what? If they're talking to your customers every 6 weeks, or even every 4 weeks, they could pick one every single month, and you could ring them for 12 different reasons in a year, just to maintain and build that relationship going forward. And if you want to make a sale, follow the sale, the 6-step process on the sale. Okay? So, back to me. Get my chat box back up. Follow those reasons to call. Nobody should be allowed in the business to not have a reason to call any of your customers. There are a million reasons. I've given you a handful there. You could probably think of some more from your point of view with the products and services you sell, rather than the products and services I sell on the back of that. Okay? So reasons to call. Top tip number 3. What is your version of this list, as I've just said? Maybe somebody can go away and do a little bit of thinking around this, around the area, whether that's CHP for Salford, whether that is inspection and test, the training team, Yorkshire Water, whatever. What's the reason for contacting? Maybe you can come up with that list as well. Good little takeaway from today. Okay? Reason number 4, UVP, not USP. Okay? Gone the wrong way around. Hang on a second. Yeah. So, a USP, if anybody's come across a USP before, a USP is unique selling point. Very few companies have USPs anymore. You might have one or two in the industry you're in, being market leaders. You might have certain technologies that are unique to Centrica, but you might not, okay? USPs are kind of quite old now, and they don't always get you the sale. What we need instead is a UVP. Now, a UVP is a unique value proposition. And what that means is what value you give to your customers. And how do you give your customers value? Making sure the product is right, you give them, absolutely, but also all the other stuff we've talked about today so far. You're calling them, you're speaking to them, you're making them feel good, you're moving them up the relationship. What value can you give them that nobody else in the world can? Because let's face it, you are unique as a person. Nobody can give people value like you, because you are unique. So how do you build that value proposition? You might not be the cheapest, for argument's sake. Why should a customer buy from you, especially if you're not the cheapest? What value can you give that your competitors can't give? I have people, clients that work for me, that could probably, I don't want to tell you this, Pete, could probably go and find something cheaper, to be fair. Yeah? But I'll tell you what, I'll almost guarantee you won't get the same value. Because value proposition to me is of paramount importance. Yeah? Paramount importance. What value can I give? I can give a bit of time. I can give stuff for free. I can add in things that maybe don't come with the standard package. Whatever it may be, I can add that value. So to leave you with another little thought, step number 4, how can you build a value proposition? What is your value proposition? What value can you give to your customers over and above what they're going to get anywhere else? And finally, point number 5, ow, how, wow. And I'm not sure if that's how you spell ow, but it is for this context, okay? This is a little concept I came up with a number of years ago. I want you to imagine you go for a meal out in a restaurant, when we're allowed to, obviously. The only ow you should receive in customer service when you're out having that meal is the bill. That's the only ow you're going to get, okay? So that's what an ow. It's necessary, but it doesn't happen very often, okay? Then you've got a how. A how is what your customer expects. So whatever you promised your customer, that's what a how is. You expect a how. A wow is something your customer does not expect, and it helps build your value proposition, okay? And if you can wow your customers by giving them something they do not expect, that is better than any testimonial in the world, okay? But these change over time, okay? So if you stayed in a hotel 10 years ago, if you got Wi-Fi, it was a wow, even if you had to pay for it. If you go into a hotel now and there's no Wi-Fi, it's a big ow. But if you have to pay for it, it's still an ow. Because actually, having free Wi-Fi isn't a wow anymore, it's a how, it's what we expect. So I know I haven't spent a lot of time on that, but how are you going to wow your customers? Give them what they expect. Try not to give them any ows, but how are you going to wow them? Okay? So, it's 11 o'clock. We're about to finish. The 5 top tips for today: build trust, prepare for your contact, mental preparation, physical preparation, 6 steps if you need to, find a reason to contact your people, 6 to 8 weeks, create a list of reasons to contact people. You don't want a USP, you want a UVP, so what value package can you build for your people and for your customers? Only give them hours when they need to pay for stuff. Give them what they expect with a how, and how could you wow your customers? Okay? Hope you've enjoyed the session. 1 or 2 people have just dropped off. No problem, Pete, that's great. Thanks for the feedback. If you've got any feedback or questions, drop them into the chat box now. I'll make sure that we get those handouts emailed out to you. And for those that are coming, I will see you in about 29 minutes on the next session about keeping your team motivated. Thanks for your time today, guys. Appreciate it. See you soon. Bye for now.